Now recording. Hi, Craig.
I swear to God, if Craig messes up this time, I'm going to hunt down his family and make him listen to his music.
But Craig's a great musician. I'm sure
No, he's
that'll go. Yeah, that's probably true. That picture we did of him had the whole town burning down behind him for a reason. So yeah, let's get our introductions out of the way. Welcome to what are we calling this episode? Is it Grumpy Players?
The end of the year Grumpy Dungeon Masters special. Grumpy Dungeon Masters present the Grumpy Player special. Grumpy Players react.
So I am a dungeon master. My name's Jay, and
I guess I'm a dungeon master. My name is Chris.
And today we have 4 players with us who are going to rake us over the coals. So
Maybe. They better be nice, because I still control their fates in the campaign setting. So not a threat, but totally a threat.
Hashtag give him pizza. He likes pizza.
All right, so I guess we'll go have them all introduce themselves in some way, shape, or form. Starting alphabetically with Mike.
Yeah, that's definitely alphabetically.
Yeah. So I'm Mike, and I play Darian Cash in our Icewind Dale setting that we stream. What's that?
When do we stream it?
Every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Central, or not Central, Eastern time.
What's the link?
Grumpy Dungeon Masters /
Twitch.tv/Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
You've got to get it right. You have to memorize it.
Insta death.
And what is Darian Cash?
He is a bard fighter mix, and he has a special secret that's already been revealed on our gameplay, so you should watch it.
Dun dun dun. Of which we will not talk about because we're trying to avoid spoilers, sadly.
Right.
Cursed spoilers.
All right, so next alphabetically will be Dimitri.
Okay. I'm Dimitri. I play Don Feroth, the wood elf ranger, who just really likes hunting and fishing.
Get roped into adventuring. I feel for you.
All right, up next is Khan, also known as Sam.
I'm Sam. I play Khan Horncarver on Saturdays. In Icewind Dale, he's a Goliath fighter with the subclass Rune Knight. And I've just been trying to keep the world cold.
Keeping it frosty.
Keeping it frosty. That's right.
I think that's everybody important, right?
Yeah, that's definitely everyone important.
Well, I'm not part of the best friends club, so I guess technically that's true.
Yeah.
Aww.
I know. My feelings. Hi, I'm Shelly. I play Tarrant Cardsworth, a human sneak rogue / fighter. Everybody's a fighter in this campaign, it seems.
Everybody in 5th edition D&D is a fighter.
Advise that it would be a very good idea to do that.
Everybody takes 2 levels of fighter. It's just a thing.
So far it's worked.
Yeah.
So far it's worked. I'm happy with it. Taryn is just very happy-go-lucky. She likes everybody. Everything's cool. She's fascinated with everything.
Plus, with a name like Cardsworth, I immediately knew you had some rogue levels.
I just came up with it randomly, and then I was like, because originally this character wasn't supposed to be a rogue, it was supposed to be a wizard. And I thought that was a very human-y human name, and that's what I was going for.
Cardsworth. Sounds like your butler. Yeah. Cardsworth, take me to the store.
Cardsworth from Beauty and the Beast.
Ooh. So yeah, that's me.
So, the overall purpose of this this stream was just an end of the year kind of like special thing to kind of give the player some time to kind of have some retrospective on bad DMs or things DMs have done to them that they didn't like and they just wanted to kind of grump about.
So
to an extent.
what he is saying is all of you get to talk about how much you hate how Chris does things. So seek your vengeance.
I guess we can start back alphabetically again. Mike, do you want to?
We don't have to go in order. Just
Let's.
whoever.
Yeah.
Well, I will say one thing, that out of all the ideas of like bad DM stuff that I've experienced, which isn't a whole lot, because I've only been playing for about 2 years now. But Chris is probably one of the best DMs I've ever played with, and he does a really good job. So I'll give him props there before we do any bashing.
You'll survive your next DC check.
Yeah, but one of the biggest like pet peeves that I've come across was a DM who liked to play favorites, and it really just kind of ruins the game for everybody.
Yep.
When that happens. So,
I mean, if you have any stories specifically.
Well, I mean, I started out in an adventure league, and I was playing a game, and you could just tell, like, there's one player at the board had all the Gucci gear. Everybody else just kind of started out, and this player was like level 5, and everybody else was level 1, and they're like, oh no, it's okay, they're good. And then they get to do everything in the game. No one else got a chance to like really do anything. It just made the whole night suck.
I mean, a single level 5 character could kill 4 level 1 characters without even breaking a sweat.
Oh yeah.
Were you there on the one Adventure League night that I was running where we had some dude show up to play Adventures League that came in with like his like uber powerful?
He had like a level 10 character. Yeah, he had some like, or it was like a level 15 or something. He was like, "Oh, I'll just downgrade him to play with you guys." Yeah,
and then he had like all the magic items in the fucking world. Like, like there's no way that I'm going to be able to check and make sure those items are legitimate. But at least he didn't step over us too much.
Right. I mean, he kept himself in check decently. He didn't really do anything. He just kind of sat there. But
I mean, still that could, it sounds like it went all right, but I could just imagine how that could be incredibly disorienting and game breaking, especially if there were new people there, people who have barely played D&D.
One of the biggest like issues with Adventure League it's supposed to be very inviting to new players, which is great, but I know Chris has talked about this in the past on the podcast, but like it can be overwhelming because you'll get a bunch of players that show up and they want to learn how to play, but then you only have one DM, so then you end up with like 8 people at a table, and not conducive.
Yeah, it's not tenable. You can't do that. One, it's not actually going to draw in players. Excuse me, because nobody's going to have fun. If it takes forever just to get through a single round of combat, you're just not going to have people come back.
Yeah, if only there was other DMs in the store at the time that could help by running an additional table for the new players.
So, Chris, tell me about this other bad DM.
No, let's move on to Dimitri and his story, what he wants to talk about. Because he had the good idea in the chat before, and I kept telling him not to talk about it. Just save it for the podcast.
Yeah, like we do that all the time to each other. Let's save it for the podcast. I did that last night, actually.
So I've been playing about 20 years now, so most of my complaints are from long before I ever met Chris, who is great. We cannot forget that.
So much sucking up.
Well, the first thing that came to mind that we were discussing in the chat is unjustified accusations of min-maxing. So I made a single class Moon Druid Elf, which strong class race combination, yes, but that's not min-maxing. That's just straight character creation.
Par for the course.
Yeah. I've
Yep.
seen a Lightfoot Halfling Rogue, single classed, nothing special, accusations of min-maxing. And I know min-maxing. I made, for one shot, a 6 mecha abusing item crafting rules and everything, but we were told to do our worst. The straightforward, simplest character builds you could do are not min-maxing. Don't accuse your players of it when it's not.
Min-maxing is a level 10 character that can deal 160 damage in one turn, while the rest of the party averages about 40. That's min-maxing. That's what I deal with in one of the campaigns I'm playing in. So not if you're just a straight druid, you don't do anything crazy, you just have your spells and your shape shifting. That's not min-maxing.
Yeah, like for me, it's like the second you have the exact like magic items and like you have everything pre-planned out by like 10 levels, that's kind of like the borderline min-maxing to me. But at the same time, it's like, are you going to have fun with this character? You already seem to have it played out. You're not letting anything evolve naturally as you play through. So I've never accuse anyone of min-maxing. If you min-max, fine. It's fine. But I know some people get really have, what's the phrase, tight buttholes about it.
I think the only problem with min-maxing is when you have a character that becomes so powerful that literally nobody else has a purpose for being there. And I don't even know that that's really possible in 5th edition. You can definitely get some serious damage dealing characters, but they still have their purpose and their role. Like, they're not invincible. It was primarily you'd see it in earlier editions, 2nd, 3rd edition especially, where characters literally would just be so overwhelmingly powerful and have access to everything that there was not much point in having the other characters there. Like, they would just sort of steamroll everything.
So Dimitri, tell me about the min-max character that you built that was do your worst.
So this was a level 21 shot in Pathfinder, and most of the party, right? Most of the party went for the Avengers or things like that as their character concepts. I made a Gundam complete with a brilliant energy sword that was about 50 feet long. So when we reached the final tower, brilliant energy weapons don't interact with inorganic materials, so I just flew a zigzag pattern. Killed everything in the tower, which was smaller in radius than my sword's length.
Wow. Yeah, I've never even seen that be a possible thing. I think the most broken thing I've ever witnessed was the Frenzied Berserker from 3rd edition or 3.5. And that one was definitely broken. We killed a Terrask in a single round. I think he pumped out 800 damage in the first round of combat.
So, is there a specific instance where someone was like a DM, which is just overly just had it with the min-maxing and just kind of went crazy, or just?
Mostly I've seen a lot of passive aggression and snide comments, which really just ruin the fun when you're not setting out to break the game.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've always tried to like let people build whatever they want to build. If they want to min-max, that's fine. Like I mentioned just moments ago, I like the natural progression of a story, like Sam and his fighter. I had set all those rules for you guys, and then like, you know what, this makes perfect sense for the character. Just do it, and I don't. Even though Tasha's is overpowered, and picking something out of there may be stronger than anything else previously, it made logical sense to go with it. So I've never understood DMs who act like that personally.
I mean, I've played with DMs. Once again, going back to the frenzied berserker thing, I've definitely played with dungeon masters who would not allow that because of how powerful it was. That being said, they tell everybody else ahead of time, you can't do the blade singer, you can't do the frenzied berserker. Everything else is on the table because those were the known, seriously overpowered things from that setting. If the DMs aren't familiar with what's broken, then it can definitely lead to a problem. But it's hard to catch everything.
All right, Sam. What about you? You got anything?
Yeah, I got a big pet peeve, and it's nothing to do with you or any of my current DMs because I play in 3 different games right now: Pathfinder and 2 different 5e games. But I do have a problem with some DMs who like to make the game the dungeon master versus the player. I've played role playing games for over 10 years now. I started when I was 9. Like, I love role playing games, and it's sad to see a DM who thinks they're out to destroy the player and make this just impossible instead of telling a story and working together. Because at the end of the day, everyone's supposed to have fun. And specifically, there is a DM I can think of from Adventurers League who had this problem. He was very much it's him versus the players when it should be him and the players working together to tell this great story with a little bit of randomness from the dice. And I mean, if something happens and someone dies, someone dies. To the same account, there's DMs who fudge rolls sometimes for good or for bad. But it should never be like, oh yeah, I've killed 16 players this campaign and they're proud of that. It's ridiculous.
Some people have it up on their stream how many they've killed.
2 is not too bad.
The only time that I've actually been proud that I killed players was Tomb of Annihilation, but
that's sort of
kind of par for the course.
We wanted to die though. We were just chucking character ideas.
It was a good opportunity to play test different classes.
Yeah. I mean, my healer got pretty far in that game, and I had fun with that. So.
Yeah, but even in that, like the stories that kind of evolve from that, like they still go on. Like those characters still kind of exist in kind of like a weird pseudo world kind of way.
Oh yeah, my headcanon is that my character, when she died as a snake and became a zombie snake, she's now the pet for the big bad evil guy in that campaign.
So here's a thing that me and my other dungeon master, my friend Johnny, that we oftentimes do, because we have our own campaign settings that we've both been running for the same group of players for, I don't know, 5 years at this point, 6 years. And it is pretty common that when a character survives through a campaign, that we then utilize them in the next leg of the campaign for the other set of characters. So like the characters that I played in his campaign ended up becoming deities. So now like literally everything about his current campaign settings are based around the fact that those guys are still around, that they are gods. For my own campaign, when I wrapped it up, the Hobtown campaign, most of their characters opted to sort of retire, but there was one of them that had a noble title who actually owned some lands. So if I ever run campaign settings there, that guy's still there. He still owns those lands. He can be a major NPC or a factor at some point if I decide to do it. So, with the Tomb of Annihilation or any of that stuff, if Chris continues running things in the Forgotten Realms settings, like those guys are still around. Whatever they were up to, he could easily just insert them back into it.
Yeah, I kind of want to write a one shot or like a small adventure where you have to go rescue Volo from hell, and like having the big bad end guy be your druid.
Oh god.
But getting back to your point with DMs versus players, that happens too much, and I hate DMs that do that too. Like especially the one that you kind of mentioned. I've seen that a few times, but like, it's not fun. I mean, like, sitting from my side of the table as a DM, I can just make avalanches happen. I can make great white dragons appear and annihilate a party, and it's not going to be fun. I won't be able to play next week because you guys aren't going to show up. So I never understood players who go out of their way to do that. Like, I don't. Maybe it's an ego thing that they're trying to do. I'm not entirely sure, but
Probably.
I don't know.
It's like
Well-
those guys we ran into on Sea of Thieves, just killing newbies over and over again.
There's just.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. I was just saying yes. Some people just get a kick out of it. So
I don't know.
I mean-
There's a lot of trust between a player and a DM. Like, you guys really are making the world, and I've been on both sides. And when you have all that power, it's like you shouldn't want to abuse it to hurt your players because you want people to come back and have a good time. That's supposed to be the fun of it for a dungeon master, is that you're telling a good story and everyone else is having a great time also.
and an important factor that those kind of DMs often overlooked is even if you're not killing off the whole party, if you kill a character, that person's going to be sitting there for God knows how many hours until they either make a new character and get pulled back into the story, or until the next game session when they're able to make a new character. That doesn't sound like fun to me.
Right. I know when we had a character leave recently in Icewind Dale, and thankfully Shelley had a backup character made.
I mean, I guess if you already have a backup character, it's not as big of a deal, but most people don't plan for that unless it's Tomb of Annihilation.
I had like 6 characters for Tomb of Annihilation made.
I tell
move.
you what, just as a side comment, Icewind Dale seems to be about just as deadly as Tomb of Annihilation was, but
Oh, it feels
And-
spooky.
in a very different way. Like, there's not like an instant death trap right every corner, but it's like, yeah, you're stuck out in the middle of the wilderness. You're all dead.
Hey,
Speaking
let
of
me
characters.
tell you, one wrong move in Icewind Dale and your whole party's just toast. It's not hard to get everyone killed on accident.
All right. Well, last but not least, Shelley, do you have any gripes about DMs that you would like to share with the party?
When you said her
Remember that-
name, when you said her name, I could just feel you eye rolling her, like, oh, Shelley. Like that's what I got from that.
Remember, this is a safe space. I'm in the other room, so I can't reach you.
I'm really spoiled in that I have not been playing very long, and really I've only played with Chris. And I want to mention something that somebody mentioned earlier about DMs that play favorites. He does not play favorites with me at all. He does not pull his punches. I don't feel... He helps me some, like, if I've got questions about how to set up a character, because it's just some stuff that I just don't know yet. But as far as, like, when we're actually playing in-game, I'm just like everybody else, which I really appreciate a lot.
So one thing we do at the LARP that we play at Solar is, if you are our friend, we absolutely do not pull punches. If anything, we go harder at you.
Yeah, so that's always a nice thing, as I don't feel like I get extra special treatment, which is a good thing. So I don't really have a whole lot of experience. I went to one Adventures League night, and then we had another set at the game store that we were supposed to get an all-girl group going together, and it just kind of fizzled out. So I don't really have a lot of complaints. The only thing that kind of comes to mind is when I went to the one Adventures League game, the DM rolled out in front of us and told us what the numbers were. And that kind of, I don't know if it's, again, just because I play with Chris, but that kind of takes you out of it. I don't want you to roll and be like, oh, I got a 19, unless you're a player, because that's kind of important. But the DM shouldn't be saying, okay, he's going to hit you. Okay, he rolled a 19, and then he rolled this much damage, and then he's going to make a perception check, and he rolled a 10. I don't really think that's kind of appropriate. I like not really knowing. Like, I get to hear Chris rolling dice in the other room, and it's kind of, oh my God, what's going to happen? So it kind of makes it a little bit more fun for me. I think it takes, seeing what's going to happen every single time kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
I could see that. It's probably because it was Adventures League, where
Yeah.
they're trying to sort of teach people Dungeons and Dragons. Me, I'm a big proponent of the DM screen. Like, I don't want people to see what I roll for multiple reasons. One, it does draw them out of it, like you're saying, and two, occasionally, because I'm trying to tell the story and not kill the party, I might have to fudge a roll here and there, and I don't need them to know that.
Right. Well, the weird thing was he had a DM screen set up. He just stood next to it and rolled dice and wrote it down on the paper right in front of him. It was very weird. The other thing, and I don't know if this is a complaint or just a personal preference. I'm not 100% on theater of the mind. Like, I don't mind watching it to a certain extent. I've got a couple streams on Twitch that I watch that are theater of the mind, but they're extremely entertaining because of one of them is puppets that play D&D, and they make it so entertaining to watch, even though you don't really see a map or anything like that. The all-girl group that we tried to do, she didn't have any maps or anything like that. And at that time, I had only been experienced with Chris as a DM. So she just kind of sat there and just kind of told us what we were doing. And it was kind of boring more than anything else. I had a rogue in that. I think it was a rogue that I had in that campaign. And we only met twice, and we only played actually a game once. And she just was kind of, okay, you're going to sneak around here and then do this. And it was kind of like, I miss minis and being able to move things around myself.
Yep, definitely spoiled.
I've learned a lot from watching, like on Twitch. I've got a bunch of different people that I watch. I've learned so much from watching that and actually kind of being able to apply it to our game. So I'm not just making a lot of stupid mistakes. I still make a lot of stupid mistakes, but at least it's not like as bad as it used to be.
I've been playing D&D at this point, I guess, 30 years, and even I still learn things from watching streams occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Every player has their preferences. Every DM has their preferences, and it's sort of finding the mesh that works for you and everybody else involved.
Right.
I've run Theater of the Mind before. I'm trying to recall when we were on I was like 15 or 16 at the time, so it was a long time ago. We were taking a field trip, as me and some friends of mine. So we're just in the back of a van. We don't have any dice. We don't have anything. We're just sort of theater of the minding it. But I am definitely on board with. I prefer minis. I prefer maps. I'm huge on maps. I must have maps in front of me.
Mm-hmm. I'm a visual person, so I
need to see where my character is at.
Right.
I got numbers to work with, and I just need this.
Right. Same.
I think theater of the mind too is kind of like it's like a trained muscle that you need to have that artistry internally to be able to do it well, and then you have to kind of train it or do lots of drugs to experience it to a good degree that actually works.
Don't tell the secrets.
All right, so we're gonna do a little ayahuasca, and then we're gonna play some D&D. Let's do this.
So
I see a lot of elves.
So honestly, Shadowmoor is probably where like I have lost myself sometimes, like where like the people coming at me are just people in tabards, but honestly, all I'm seeing is just what I think those goblins look like or what those monsters look like. And I think it's probably due to like, the heat stroke and plus dehydration that's going on currently.
And
That's
3
kinda
days
causing-
no sleep. Yep.
Right. So it's super easy for me to do Theater of the Mind at Shadowmoor because honestly, I see that stuff. I think it was last summer. I was sitting on the porch of the tavern in Shadowmoor, and I swear to God, I saw a kangaroo hop across the field and like kick somebody, and then like hop away. And I kind of just like, I think I looked over at Kevin and was just like, I think I need some water. I just saw a kangaroo, and I walked inside and sat in the air conditioning for a little while. But it's just Theater of the Mind's one of those things that either you'll like it and you can do it, or you got to spend a lot of time kind of getting used to it. I don't know.
It's a trained muscle. If you do it all the time, it gets better. It's a practice of storytelling.
So my Monday night group, we just did Plane Chase, and we had to do Theater of the Mind for that one because our DM doesn't know how to run Roll20 yet. And thankfully, we're all LARPers, so it was very easy for us to get into it. But I could see where being a newer player, that's a hard one to do, Shelly. It's hard to get into at first.
I mean, really, now that I've watched other people do it and see how good it can be, because you're not really focusing so much, I feel, on the game as much as like the characters. I have another stream that I was watching. I think their campaign ended because I haven't seen any more of it, and it was so intense. The interactions between the characters, you didn't need anything else to go with it. It was like almost like operatic in a sense of how intense it was.
It's like watching a movie.
It really was, yeah.
Is it the one with the puppets?
No, it was the other one with
No.
the dampier.
I like the one with the puppets.
I like the one with the puppets a lot too. That was really fun.
Puppets are good.
They're actually playing Rime of the Frost Maiden right now, so I can't watch it anymore because I don't want to get spoilers, and it made me really sad.
Oh,
I guess just come back and watch it afterwards.
Yeah, I guess so. They just started, I think, not this week, but the week before, so they're behind us. But I know because there was so much that we didn't get to do, I don't really want to know about that.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean that is one of the nice things about Icewind Dale is you can run multiple groups through this thing and not even really have that much overlap. It is absolutely possible to just do separate missions and so forth until you get later into the story without ever crossing paths.
When
yeah.
when I first started watching it, they were doing like a home brew, and it was just kind of all over the place. But it was really fun because the characters were. And when I turned on the Rime of the Frost Maiden one, it wasn't quite the same. I think because I was kind of knew ahead of time the setting, so it wasn't quite as interesting. But then it sounded like they were doing something I didn't know about, and so I just turned it off, and I haven't watched it since.
Be aware that Chris sort of wings it at times. Like he takes you guys off the beaten path, especially because of some of the stuff you guys are doing. He's adding in things that are not in the book.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, it makes it all the better. That's what a DM is supposed to do. Like that's literally what we talked about last podcast. Is have to wing stuff, make shit up on the fly.
The Winging It episode was really good. It was.
Good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it because we were literally winging it.
we were so tired. Well, you guys have any other stories you want to bring up or any other points?
I've got one that might be a little more controversial.
You guys can absolutely talk stories and stuff about previous things you've done in D&D, previous campaigns under Chris and so forth.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Dimitri. Tell us your thing.
So, overuse of the phrase, how would you like to do this?
Fuck you, Matt Mercer.
Exactly. Once in a while, when something particularly cool happens, sure. But in a high-level campaign where the fighter is making 8 attacks in a turn, you should not stop the flow of the game for how would you like to do this 3 times within a single, not even round of combat, a single character's turn.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The only time you should ever utilize that, and personally I don't use it whatsoever, but the only time it should ever be fucking utilized is when you killed the big bad evil guy. That's it. You know, okay, you've gone through this entire dungeon, you're on the last fight. Oh, you killed the guy. Now you can use it.
So
I think
Go ahead.
last session I did it to Sam because he one-rounded a fucking dragon.
And me.
I was like, meh, go ahead, yeah. And then I did it with Shelly because she finished off the other dragon, and it just kind of felt poetic in a way. So, God, I hate that.
I was just going to say... Oh, go ahead, Shelly.
No, go ahead, Sam.
I was just going to say, I like the way Chris does it. He'll throw one in randomly. Just be like, all right, you really smacked that guy around. How did he die? But it's not often enough to be, like, annoying. It's not... I've seen DMs who are every creature you get, like, I don't need to know that I splattered the 6th goblin skull open. I watched it. Cool. Good.
It's got 7 fucking hit points. I'm level 8.
Shelly?
I actually find it fun because obviously not all the time. I agree with that it's kind of overused. I can kind of see where in Critical Role it does get a little overused, but I think with that they kind of have an advantage because of who they are, the players there. But the reason I think it's fun to do is because it kind of forces you to kind of put yourself a little bit more into your character at that time. Like during Mike's campaign, whenever he would ask me to do that, I had to like really stop and think and kind of think about what Samigri was and who she was and what she would do to just utterly destroy that creature. And I thought that was kind of, it gives you a little bit of a moment where you have to be like, okay, what would my character really do in this instance?
Makes
Right,
sense.
because everything the players do, or the DM has the players do, is supposed to help build that story and expand those characters some. So when you have that hard long fight with the big bad end guy, or you have this kind of like almost like inspiring kill in the middle of the battlefield, you want the players to feel rewarded for that, and that's when you use that. If you do it all the time, then you've burnt out the tool that the DM can use to make the story entertaining for everybody.
Like I don't think it's overused on Critical Role. I think it's just everybody has seen Critical Role, so now they've used it, and it's sort of gotten out into the D&D universe. The idea behind it is just to give that person that brief moment of notice of you did something cool. Here's your little special thing for it, and I like that. But yeah, definitely don't want to use it too often. Loses that flavor.
Dimitri?
Well,
No, I don't have anything other than saying I might be the only one here who has never watched an episode of Critical Role.
I have not watched an episode of Critical Role. I think
Hey.
it's a badge we can both wear. And it's not because I think the show is bad. It's because honestly, I don't want to ever pick up any of another DM's traits. I already feel like I'm too much like Chris Perkins because I watched so much of what he did back in 4th edition.
And I've watched 100+ episodes of Critical Role. I'm pretty certain I haven't picked up any of Matt Mercer's traits.
Well, I'm an impressionable young youth here. You're the old one.
What
Get
I
off
watched
my lawn!
what I watched of it helped also because they have a really nice layout with all their minis and stuff like that. And when we first started playing in the first home campaign, which I miss terribly, I love you guys and I love what we have now, but I miss Waterdeep Dragon High so much. But when we started playing that, because I never had any experience with it before, I wasn't really able to kind of plan what I wanted to do. And watching Critical Role really helped me a lot be able to see there's more about movement than just running up and attacking whatever you're attacking. And so I think it's a good thing that it's so popular, because I think that has also really helped bring a lot of people into the fold of playing Dungeons and Dragons, because it is very accessible and very fun.
I wrote an article a while back about how Critical Role was sort of the catalyst to make Dungeons and Dragons as popular as it is. Like it had been sort of gaining some momentum for a while, but 4th edition really kind of kicked it in the jewels. And then Twitch happened, then Critical Role happened, and now D&D's become massive over the last 5 or 6 years because of it.
Yeah, I imagine the pandemic has helped some too.
Yeah, definitely couldn't have hurt. I know Roll20's picked up a lot of people on there. They're probably loving this pandemic. As soon as it's over, everybody's going back to playing at tables again.
I don't even know if I'll be able to, I've almost forgotten what that's like. I'm so used to sitting here in front of the screen, I'm having to not have people sitting right here to talk to.
I look forward to the day when I can just drive 10 miles to my friend's house and sit down for a weekend of D&D. God, we're gonna get so fat and so loaded that weekend. It's gonna be amazing.
Sharing pizza again over the D&D table will be great.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Well, we have one of our players is a fantastic cook, so she's probably gonna bring like mac and cheese and peach cobbler and all the delicious stuff that I miss.
I am very ready to go back to pen and paper and feel actual dice rolling. Like I like the digital dice, and I know I could use my dice, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel right without everyone being there and the clitter clatter of plastic.
Yeah, I definitely think that the digital dice, while they're great and all, they lack that feel. Especially like if you see them like on the screen, it just like you're not really participating in that role anymore. So, and like I wanted you all to kind of use the digital dice just to see how it worked and how it felt just from the get go. But honestly, like now it feels kind of weak. And I never used them. I kept using my normal dice. Like just even hearing a dice over the stream adds something to the roll.
It really does. Like I said,
Absolutely.
hearing it in the background in the other room, and then here you go. Okay.
What do you use do you use Roll20, Chris?
I use Foundry,
Foundry.
and
That's right. I know we talked about it. Do they have an option where you can add dice rolling noises?
yeah, there's a couple modules and stuff that have like fancy dice or dice sounds and stuff like that. But even D&D Beyond's dice roller has noise and stuff, but it lacks the same it's fake kind of thing. It's the uncanny valley of dice rolling sounds.
You miss the kinesthetics.
Yeah.
Yep, it's Sam's Cola instead of Coca-Cola. Yeah, it's that off-brand. It's just not quite right.
Right. Mike, you got anything else? Any other stories, grumps?
I got a personal story, and then I'm going to talk about a little bit the small little homebrew campaign that I did that was partially inspired by Jay and talking on the podcast.
Oh yeah, he told me about this. I can't wait to hear this thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I put together this campaign, and ultimately it gave me a very big appreciation to what DMs do every day. And I'm going to say a few of these things that we've said that we hate, I have fallen into and accidentally did them. And then, after our session, Chris would talk to me and he'd be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this so much. Like the how would you like to kill it? Did that a lot, and it really slows down combat if you do it too much. And I was really just trying to give it to like when you decimated an enemy, but it ended up everybody was just pubs curb stomping all my foes. And then I also fell into the thing where there was a few points that I really wanted to just kill the players. I'm like, no, this is me versus them. They're all gonna die now. And then all my guys died. Or I realized that I was being dangerously evil with how I was DMing, so I tried to curtail that.
Yeah,
but
you're very lucky that you have somebody like Chris who can. We do this podcast all the time. He's got years of experience at it. He can sit down and afterwards and tell you there's better ways to do these things.
Oh yeah, and hindsight's 2020 when you do stuff like that and someone calls you out. And I learned a lot to be a better player by trying to DM that whole thing. And I'd like to think that if I ever DM'd again, I wouldn't do any of that stuff again, or terribly.
My personal belief is that everybody who plays at least consistently with D&D should also dungeon master at least a little bit, because it does give you the view from the other side of the table.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it too, and I am so glad that I had prepped everything for the whole campaign ahead of time, because my daughter was born, and it helped a lot to not have to prep anything the day before.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you DM for a long time, after a while you stop prepping ahead of time. Like my prep work is me when I'm outside walking or exercising. I sit here and think about what I'm doing for the campaign, and then the day of the game, I put everything into order. But
I have to do more prep now because of the stream than normal. Like normally I could just read stuff from the campaign book or just have an idea of what I'm about to do and just kind of like wing it for the rest of the night. And that's great. But because everything's on stream and I have to have the maps set up ready to go, all with all the monster tokens lined up and ready to go and everything just prepped and ready to go. And I'm gonna say ready to go again for the 5th time. And my Saturdays are then like monster. My Saturdays are basically me like around like noon going, oh god damn it, I gotta prep for the stream, and then me kind of going into my room and disappearing for the rest of the day.
Pretty much.
I don't have it quite as bad since mine's not on stream. If I make mistakes, I can easily just sort of hold on a minute, guys, let me set this up. But yeah, my Saturdays have turned into a few hours at least of me just putting everything onto Roll20 now.
Someone, not to sidetrack, but someone did release on Foundry a campaign setting, and what you do is you download his files, you put it into the right folders for Foundry. It makes its own little campaign, and you load it. And what it is over 500 different maps with tokens and special effects, all ready to go at your disposal to run a game. So some guy kind of went out there and did all the prep work and made 500 different maps. So you can basically just load up that campaign setting and play in there and just load random maps. So now that there's community kind of growing behind Foundry, they're getting a lot more resources to kind of have things more on the fly than they used to.
I love that. I would, yeah. That's a worthy endeavor.
Yeah, that is one of the cool things about Foundry is all the different people that make mods for it.
I did want to say, Mike, you did really good DMing the kind of Windows campaign you made. It was a lot of fun.
It really was.
I know I played a janky character, but
yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I was like sweating bullets every time.
You killed it, man. You did great.
I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled that somebody picked up the Hobtown idea and ran with it. The portals to wherever you need to go for that adventure.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good idea to kind of railroad people, but also make them feel like it was random because you just jump into the portal, and as far as the players know or their characters, they're going somewhere completely random.
And for DMs who don't have a lot of time to work on campaigns, it's just easy. You just make up a module, buy a module, whatever for the weekend, and you've got your whole thing laid out.
Yeah, that's basically what I did. Is I did some flavor of why they're in the situation that they're in, and then they jumped through a portal and ended up in a random, self-contained encounter for the night or however long it took them to get through it. But
I really like that campaign because I played a character that was different from anything I had played really prior to that, and even though it wasn't not like I have a lot of experience with characters anyway, but I think you did a good job with it to where it allowed me to kind of do something new that I wasn't used to, that I hadn't done before. So I think that was one of the reasons why I really liked it, is you kind of made it easy to do something new.
I'm kind of curious because one of you said you played a janky character for it, and like Shelley, what did you guys play for that game, if you recall?
Was it a barbarian?
Yeah, you had a barbarian?
Yeah, a half-orc barbarian.
I played a Way of the Astral Self monk who was a blatant JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character.
I hate you so much.
That was the best. I love that one.
It was my first meme character in probably 8 years, so I'm not sorry.
See, I hear Way of the Astral Self, and that's the one with the multiple arms, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Nope.
immediately think of God, what was the movie? The dragon. I can't even remember what it's called. There's a film out there where the guy where he has the glow and he has like multiple arms, catches bullets with his teeth and shit.
So
The
every
last
kung fu movie made in the past
no
25 years.
no go watch The Last Dragon. That's what it was. Can't believe
Oh.
like literally none of you have ever seen The Last Dragon.
No.
Nope.
Oh my
I don't
god.
know, maybe.
Honestly, probably Shelley has, but she's currently dealing with a 4-year-old. So,
That's fair.
so I think Sam, what were you?
I played a Goblin Ranger Beastmaster who had a pet sentient badger who eventually became a paladin. The badger became a paladin, not the goblin. And my whole goal was to run around and give people gifts. Mike let me even develop my own magic item called the Bag of Useless Gifts. And I would give people gifts and try to make them realize that goblins can be good.
And I, without knowing this, built a lawful good paladin dwarf who hated goblins.
Well, that went well, I'm sure.
Oh, it
He
did.
trained my badger.
I trained the badger,
He also
and
threw me in a hole.
and your bag of useless gifts eventually inspired the subclass, the toy maker, from like Everyone's Been Naughty one shot, which is still on sale price, even though I said it wouldn't be because I'm too lazy to change the price.
So pick it up before he finally gets around to changing that price. Of which we'll talk about it on the next podcast. But I actually got to run that last night, and let me tell you, goblins do in fact like giving gifts.
Yes, it grows.
So yeah, I remember that campaign was fun. I remember the first session where we were having the problems with Foundry and stuff like that. And then, like, you ended up sharing your screen,
Yeah.
and I saw your like notepad for whatever fucking reason. Your notepad where you had typed in like pages of dialogue and stuff, and I had that meme moment where I'm like, I'm about to ruin this man's whole fucking career. And like, because like I remember like even the first session, like I refused to go into the portal until your guy showed himself to me. You know, like
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna go off and just start doing stuff for some nameless entity that I've never seen before.
DM lesson 1.
Yeah. I
yeah.
had basically scripted the whole first encounter, and that's what he's talking about.
Yep. Yeah, DM lesson 1. Whatever you've gotten written down, it doesn't really matter because the players are going to make it up along the way.
But that's the thing.
Write
It's
a
like
campaign, throw it out the window.
Yep.
that's honestly what I did when I first started, though. Too, I scripted out everything, and then eventually I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. It's all useless. So it never happens.
At
Yeah,
best, if you're going to monologue with a big bad evil guy, you get maybe 2 lines. That's it.
Yeah, I had a whole like bunch of stuff, and then they kept interrupting me while I was trying to monologue, and I'm just like, jump through the portal.
Yep.
And then every session after that one, I just like an hour before, I was like, okay, let me guess how far they're gonna get, and if they get to here, here's a vague idea of what I might say, and I'll figure it out when they get there. So it was fun.
I mean, it kind of goes back to the podcast we had before, where like everything is just kind of improv, like not spoiling anything, but even the last session that we had, you guys going through that cave, 70% of it was the actual module, 30% of it was improv. You know, there's nowhere in there where it says that you can throw a guy down a crevice.
Hey man, you wouldn't let me kill. I hit him 3 times with a hammer. He didn't die. He was going in a hole.
So like, you gotta. I had the solution, and I knew what you guys should have done. Well, actually, to be fair, I knew what the book said the solution was, but I had no idea what the solution was gonna be until you guys told me what the solution is. And I think that's the hard thing to understand is you don't have to have the answer as a DM all the time. You just have to have the players give you the answer, and then you go, "Yep, that worked."
That's all the time.
It's kind of hard. You kind of have to experience that a few times, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that one, at least from my small experience.
The other thing, Mike, and this is an important one. If you ever run into that where you have to sort of come up with what happens on the fly, make sure you write down a note about it. Because your players are not going to forget it, and you will.
Yeah, I found myself doing that every once in a while. I'd remember things that they didn't seem to think was important, and they'd remember things that was important, and I forgot.
Yeah, the little things that are not important to you, that's what's important to the players.
So, kind of a different question along the same vein that we've been talking about. What is one thing that a DM has done to you all that's pissed you off to no end and like almost made you quit, that session, that campaign, that person, that lifestyle or whatever?
Can even chime in on this one.
You hush.
I have one, but it wasn't a DM, it was a player.
That's fine. This is a group of players.
So it was a Venture League game, and there was a player that was like maybe a level or two higher than everybody else, and they basically just were that guy who steamrolled through everything, made all the decisions. No one else had a say in edgewise, and it was like an hour and a half into the game session, and I looked over at my friend and I'm like, "You want to just leave?" And we ended up leaving at like 2 hours into the game.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. I don't think you were there, I'm not sure. But that was only you weren't DMing. I think this was back
No,
when
I'm trying to think if I was the player.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you were the player or not. I just it was when Aaron was still coming to Adventure League, so still pretty early on.
Yeah.
But that's my one.
Because I was playing Thaladrin, and Thaladrin is very like until the moment that like no one else is in control of it, he'll just I'll let things. Thaladrin lets things just kind of happen and is a good loyal soldier until there's no more leadership, and then it's like, okay, I'm taking over. This is what we're gonna do. So I could very much have been that person.
Yeah. I honestly, it was like one of those moments where I tried to block it out of my mind because I only wanted to remember good things about Adventure League, and so I don't remember who the player was.
I think I have an idea.
Go ahead.
I think I have an idea on who it is. Because there was that one guy who always played a particular kind of character.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that I've never quite understood about Dungeons and Dragons is why do they have a charisma score? Because force of personality of the individual playing it tends to just overwhelm whatever charisma the character itself has.
I actually feel that. I talk a lot during Icewind Dale, but my character has an 8 charisma.
Yeah. Like I personally, I think I'm a fairly charismatic person, and I have quite a force of personality. I've learned over the years that when I'm at the D&D table, I have to pull myself back to not overwhelm and just sort of run the whole damn table. So I could be playing a character with a charisma of 6, and Jay's personality still just doesn't allow that.
Well, and sometimes having a player like that can be curtailed by a really good DM who notices that maybe a player hasn't said anything lately, and then they throw him a bone. Hey, Darian, what do you want to do? You haven't moved in like 10 minutes.
As a DM, I have to do that with my group because I have multiple people with that force of personality, and then I have a couple of others who are not generally willing to talk over people. So I have to specifically oftentimes say, okay, so what are you doing? It's your turn to shine. Give me something.
That was me in the Waterdeep campaign, as I was playing a warlock with very high charisma, and I was so shy through a lot of it. And multiple times did Chris have to be like, all right, what are you doing here? Because I was not very talkative. I didn't play the character very talkative, in my opinion. And even when I was playing Shireen, my warlock in this campaign, she has a decently high charisma, and I was trying to be better about it. And I'm just not I'm very introverted. I'm not a terribly loud person. So it was hard for me back then, and it's still a little hard for me now. I really, really tried with Shireen, and I feel like I did do better with it.
I mean, you initiated a PvP session with it. I mean, that's
yeah.
that's a bad milestone.
It's also something that players can do. They can notice too, and as depending on how they play their character, if their character's a more outgoing type person, they can specifically try to include that more introverted character that's not necessarily doing stuff. Like in the case of Darian, he's supposed to be a more extroverted bard type guy, and Adon's the awkward wood elf dude who preference to stand in the corner and just observe. Darian could just be like, hey, Adon, what do you think? I'm pulling a blank on what we should do here.
Yep. So I actually do that with the same players. If I'm playing the game as opposed to running it, my character will intentionally engage the player who doesn't really engage, just to bring them into it if the DM's not doing it.
Yeah.
I try to do that. I tried to give Taryn a chance to shine last night in Icewind Dale. Yeah.
I tried.
I think Shireen actually had charisma in a way that most people don't think about charisma, like the dark, mysterious kind of charisma. Like this person, you want to know more, and that is part of the charisma score, to the point where they can be so drawing, but they don't have to be beautiful or eloquent with their words so much. And it's kind of like the charisma of a tiefling, where it's very like you need to know something. You have to communicate with this person, but at the same time, you almost don't want to touch it. It's a super beautiful flower you don't want to pick, kind of thing.
I mean, Darth Vader probably has a charisma of 18.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna touch him. People are terrified of the guy, but he's got force of personality for sure.
Right. I think I agree with Sam about Shireen. She had like kind of that that dark mystique that intrigues you. You don't want to like reach out because you're a little scared, but you always want to keep your eye on that character and see what they're going to do next.
Thank you.
And it turns out they're going to dissonant whispers Darian Cash and try to kill him and then run away.
Or think about drowning him. Yeah.
Yeah. Alone on a boat, you're going to push me off when a sea monster attacks.
I wasn't going to push you off. It was when we both fell, and I was going to make sure you didn't come back up.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we know who's instigating all the PvP in your games.
Side eyes.
This is coming from the same person who has the character of like, oh, I got to go murder an entire chapel full of devotees to illustrate. All right, cool. Let's go with this non-murder hobo campaign and go murder hobo everybody.
I didn't know what else to do. That's going back to not really knowing not knowing how to play, but I didn't know the point when it was too overwhelming. There was a time in Waterdeep where Dimitri and I were going into somewhere in the City of the Dead, I think, and there was this giant monstrosity or something like that. And I was thinking, my God, how are we going to kill this thing? I don't know what we're going to do. And then Dimitri's character looked at me and goes, let's run. And I was like, okay, let's do that.
Yeah, fleeing is an option.
Tactical retreat.
Yeah, tactical retreat. Sorry.
Which is something that's hard to learn for a new player.
Right.
I know when I first started playing, I was like, nah, we got to kill everything. Because that's
Right,
just how this game is made.
That's what I thought. I just figured, well, it's there, so we have to kill it. And
If
that's
there's
what
a
happened with the
challenge,
temple.
it's made to be overcome, right? We can
Right.
do this.
Not
I'll
always.
tell you what, it's actually worse on long-term players than it is on newer players. Because long-term players, after a while, you've done this so much, you get an ego, whereas you think you can actually just handle any situation, and that you will know if it's time to retreat. Which oftentimes, by the point it is time to retreat, it's too damn late.
I
That's
tried to
actually
retreat
happened with
last
me.
night.
So
I got that problem with Con.
yeah, let's just say Khan seems to have the same problem like Thalred does. No matter what the challenge is, it's a physical challenge, and we're gonna do it.
Yup. It's in my way. It's no longer going to be in my way. That's
Unless
its
it's an
choice.
ancient dragon.
Here's an intricate puzzle where you have to assemble runes in a very specific way and like delicately place them on top of each other. You mean smash it with my hammer? Okay.
Yup. I've never really played the big, beefy, beat 'em up guy before, so it's been a lot of fun. Actually, I usually play warlocks or sorcerers. So
I think people play them wrong. People play them too dumb, and it's not that you're dumb. It's not that you can't figure it out. It's just hitting it's just the first logical choice to that person. It's just if I hit it
Path
and break it,
of least
I can still get through the wall.
yeah,
There's a door here. Eventually, I can chisel my way through. So here's the
the
chisel.
door had traps. The wall didn't.
It's honestly like when we're playing 7 Days
7 days to die. Yeah.
It's like, okay, we can scale this entire building or just bulldoze through this wall and get exactly to the end treasure. All right, let's bulldoze through the wall.
I can beat down this armored up door that's going to take me 3,000 points, or I can go through the wall, which has 300. Let's go through the wall. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, like every door in that game is like 3 layers of like 500 hit points, or the wall is just 2 blocks that are 250 hit points each. Like, I'm gonna go through the wall then, I guess. Fuck your door.
Stone axes are cheap to make.
Yes, they are.
So I need we've just passed an hour, which is okay, but I still want to hear the most grumpiest story from you all. I know Mike had one, but probably this might come from Sam or Dom more than anybody else. Oh, Sam or Dom, Sam or Dimitri than anybody else. What is the most infuriating event that you've experienced?
Well, I was hosting the game at this point in my house, and it was a fairly large group, and we had an argument that started in game, it went out of game, and got exceedingly personal with comments about parenting skills and what have you. And that's where I gave it, that broke up the session for the night functionally immediately. Should have been even faster. But before the next session over the Facebook group for that, I was hoping to give it time to cool down and see if ways could be mended. It did not cool down, and that's when I had to make the call of, okay, if you guys want to host at a different site and keep this person in the party, that's great. However, they're not welcome in my house anymore, the real instigator of this. So if it's going to be at my house, well, yeah. And that led to most of us being blocked on Facebook and so on and so forth.
Wow, I've never actually experienced anything that bad.
Yeah, it didn't come to blows, but if we hadn't broken up the session and had everyone go home, it might have.
Dang. I think the most that I've witnessed has been back when streaming really wasn't a thing, and the internet personality pop culture was just taking off. There was a guy who got into an argument with the DM about how bees worked, and it devolved down to him rage quitting the session and then coming back when that guy was doing a different stream live and started basically reading like Encyclopedias Britannica's blurb about how bees worked and wanted just to prove so much that he was so wrong about how bees worked that
Oh my god.
he came back and did that.
Nobody gives a shit. No one cares how fucking bees work.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened, but you know, it can happen. Yeah, it can definitely happen. What about you, Sam?
I got one. It actually happened. It's a 5e game. It happened right about the time Xanathars came out. And the problem we used to go hang out at my buddy's garage and play. He had a big table, and we drink beer and it was our night. But the problem came was he was our DM, and he would basically prioritize certain players and then have other players be like background characters. And one of the prioritized players was definitely evil, like just blatantly evil, and attempting to create PvP and all this stuff, and like to the point where he was also a rules lawyer, so he PvP, but he PvP in a way where it's like, well, technically you can't do that because this, and this. I'm like, cool, the rule book. I've been playing for 10 years. I think I know I can do this spell like this. And it came down to, specifically, I was playing a Squirrel Girl sorcerer. It was just Squirrel Girl from Marvel.
Yep.
Basically, and I was using sorcerer spells to buff myself. And
That's awesome.
he, like, our party went up into this tower, and my character was like, no, I'm gonna stay out here. And I did something his character didn't like, so he grappled my character and was like, oh, well, my character would, the other half of the table wasn't, so we ended up splitting and playing at a different friend's house.
There are two problems with that whole scenario. One is the DM is not controlling his table.
Yeah.
The other issue is it's the one that we talk about on the podcast all the time about people playing shitbag characters. They're doing what their quote unquote character would do. It's fine to do what your character would do as long as you're not causing problems for the rest of the players. If they're not having fun, you're the problem.
Yeah, I've played evil characters in a good campaign, like in a non-evil campaign, and made it work. It's just, if you're gonna do that, do it in an eloquent way. Talk to your DM, make that story. It's gonna take more work to play that character, but there'll be more reward and it'll be fun. You can't just be like, I'm evil, so I stab my friend when we're alone. That's not cool, bro. Not cool at all.
Yeah,
especially if you do it wrong, or like it's not the person you're stabbing doesn't enjoy it, or it's clear that the rest of the people at the table are not down with that sort of thing. In our case, I was totally down with Shelly attacking me. Like, that was legit. That that she had some legit motives there. Off screen, I'd be like, "Why are you so mean to me?" But in game, like, if you do it right, obviously that was
Shelly
bad.
did great. That was story driven.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't just random. No, she played that character wonderfully, and I'm glad she rolled higher than me, because I would have felt bad.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah, that's the thing. It needs to be story driven.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and I felt so bad outside of game. Like when the whole twist came up with the doppelganger thing, I felt so bad about what was going to happen. I'm sitting here, my heart is racing. I was like trying to be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is happening. And I felt, as a person, felt so bad about taking it there. And I kept telling Chris, I'm like, I don't want this to be a TPK just because I have issues. I really don't want it to be. And that's, if I hadn't done what I did to get away, that's, I'm sure, what would have happened. I wouldn't have made it, for sure. So at least it would have been me creating another new character.
I mean, you would have had to make a new character either way, probably. We wouldn't have kept you in the party. But
Right.
Yeah.
Darian would have tried to not kill you. Now, Khan probably just kill you in one hit.
Yeah,
So.
no, that
Yeah, I still had action surge. I was gonna unload all my attacks into you. Sorry, you attacked my friend. Darian's been like my closest ally.
and I helped kill the other one, so I knew it wasn't going to work out for me. So,
yeah, but it's PvP. It's PvP within the story. It actually makes sense the way it was done, as opposed to just grappling people and consuming them. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm lucky, is because like I wouldn't even have entertained this idea of having these conflicts exist if you guys weren't possibly, or if you guys weren't capable of handling this stuff in the right, real way. You know, like it's just random happenstance that you guys are some of the best players that I've ever had to allow stuff that you can't do in a normal situation. Like, you never want to introduce something into the campaign story that's going to cause PvP to happen. And like, when it happened and it got rolled up that way, you know, there wasn't even a second thought on my side whether or not this would work out in the end. I just kind of knew that it would because of how you guys work. I mean, it sucks that we're rolling through characters, mostly Shelley's every 5 sessions, but maybe it'll be fine this time. Maybe there's no horrible secret. Maybe that's the secret. There is no secret.
Of course.
We appreciate the trust, honestly, Chris, because I mean, Shelley, I know you're still a newer player. You really facilitated that scene excellently. Like, I've seen players who have had way more experience not be able to pull off what you did.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me. It really does.
All right. So we're definitely past an hour. Any final words or comments from you guys? Like, any last things that you want to say to DM, like what maybe they should do better or what to avoid? We'll start with Dimitri.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Put him
No,
on the spot.
I think that's a pretty good list, honestly, and you're doing great. It's been a great fun.
Mike?
Nope. I'm just happy to be here. You should, I mean, you're already listening to the podcast, but you should continue to listen to it, and you should watch our stream every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/grumpydungeonmasters.
There you
You're
go.
getting it. Yay. Shelley?
Like I said, I'm a little baby to all this still, so there's not really anything. I would just say, just take care of your players. If you take care of your players, they're going to take care of you. Chris does a really good job with that. So I just say, make sure you put in as much effort as you want to get out of it.
Sam?
To newer dungeon masters and to even old dungeon masters, I just want to say, like, remember to have fun. It should be fun for your players. It should be fun for you. If everyone is walking away from the table with a smile, then you're doing something right. And if not, communicate. Like, that's the only thing you can do. This is a group of people you're choosing to be around, and they're choosing to be around you. It should be an enjoyable time.
not to spoil anything, but DMs versus players is the top topic I want to bring up at the start of next year.
I guess
All right. Well,
my final
they'll-
thoughts on it is if you're having fun, the players will be having fun. So just keep that in mind. Enjoy yourselves.
well, I think that'll wrap up this podcast. I know it's a little bit longer, but it was a super special one. Thank you all for being here and kind of just showering me with praise. It'll help you out greatly in the end. Thank you.
Inspiration for
His
all.
head is so damn big at this point, he can't even get out of the internet.
We need more blessings.
I just want to say that since we started doing this back in July, it's been a very crazy 6 months. We've done so much. I mean, this is like the 25th-ish podcast that we've done since July. Running these 2 modules and putting them up, and everyone who's purchased those, thank you for that. If you're not following us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, you can find us just by searching for Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I think Twitter's it's grumpy_DMs, but Facebook and Instagram is just Grumpy Dungeon Masters. If you're not watching the stream, you gotta watch the stream. It's quite incredible. I mean, I know there's a lot of streams out there with D&D and a lot of bigger names, but to see the level of care and consideration that you guys put into the characters and your actions and thoughts doesn't happen all that often.
See what you do is everybody needs to watch the stream now. That way, because we're early, we're not super famous or anything. That way, later on, when we are super famous, they can sort of hipster it and like, I was watching those guys before they were famous. Like that's what we want.
All the episodes will be up on YouTube in the next month. We've exported them over, so we have a YouTube channel, Grumpy Dungeon Masters. Oddly enough,
Sort of.
Yeah. Just follow us on Twitter, and we got all the links to all of our other social media sites there. And just thank you guys for being great players. Thanks to all of our listeners for the past 6 months for doing all this. It's been a great 2020 in this aspect alone only.
This is literally it.
This has kept me going, man.
Yeah.
This has got me through 2020.
So we're looking forward to 2021. We got a couple of plans and things that we're working on, and hopefully we can keep expanding it. Hopefully you guys are all listening. Thank you to everyone that's been giving us feedback that's listening to the podcast. Justin from the stream last night. I remember you guys. And with that, Jay, any final parting words?
Nope, I said my piece. Have fun.
All right, guys.
Fuck off,
Thank
Craig.
you all.
Deuces.
See you, Craig.
Yeah, Craig.